Let's bring in Pat Evans of Legal Sports Report. And Pat, the state of Illinois, this morning, as you'll tell us, has officially approved this new tax rate of 40%. What does this mean for Illinois? And quite frankly, what does this mean for the rest of the country?
Yeah, so earlier this year, Governor JB Pritzker came out and said, hey, we're going to have a little bit of a budget deficit in my proposed budget, so we need to raise more money. So he proposed raising sports betting taxes from about 13% up to 35%, or 15% to 35%, I'm sorry. And, that got some industry pushback, as one could expect on any sort of tax increase. But between that proposed increase and additional business taxes on other businesses, he expected to fill that deficit of about $1.1 billion. Well, this morning, sure enough, we had the House get through their negotiations of the budget, approving the budget that the Senate approved on Sunday. And so now they're going to the governor to essentially be approved, because there's no reason he would say no at this point. He has indicated he will sign it. But while it was in the legislature, they adjusted that proposed tax increase a little bit. It is now a tiered system, anywhere from 20% to up to 40%, based on how much revenue, and it is laddered, so you pay for between the amounts of how much you make, the certain tax. And now at this point, only FanDuel and DraftKings would ever reach that top level, because they are the two dominant forces in that market. And it results in, if we're looking at 2023 data, it results into how much they would pay in terms of taxes, 140% about for FanDuel and about 130% for DraftKings. So understandably, these companies are not exactly excited about it. We had the Sports Betting Alliance, which includes FanDuel, DraftKings, Fanatics, and BetMGM, come out before this process even got really rolling in the legislature and say, hey, email your lawmakers, we need to stop this, because this is not a good look for the industry. To your point, 40% on that top level tier in Illinois is second most behind New York. And I think this could open a floodgate of other markets looking to change their tax rates. I mean, that's what SBA President Jeremy Kudon is concerned about. And we've already got other states talking about it. Last summer, Ohio doubled their tax rate, given that was only 10% to 20%. But that's a pretty significant jump on its own. So, yeah, we're going to see this more and more, I think, across the country. You've got the operators in Kudon saying, okay, this is going to, because of this huge hike and how much more we have to pay to operate in this state, this is going to result in worse odds, worse marketing bonuses, worse across the board, because they don't have as much money to spend on those types of things. And so this is, it's an interesting development in the industry. And like I said, it's something that we will likely see more and more across the U.S. sports betting industry as it comes. And what's really interesting, and I don't think there's any real teeth to this, but there were a couple local reporters on the ground in Illinois who had heard from, people associated with FanDuel and DraftKings that they all options are on the board, and they might even pull out of Illinois. Now, is that going to happen? I highly doubt it. But it's just interesting to hear that they even mention that as a possibility.
Yeah. Can we bet on that on the FanDuel Sportsbook? Because I'm going to bet no, minus 180 that they stay in Illinois. I mean, give me a break, please. They're not going anywhere. All right. So the update in Massachusetts shows us, though, Pat, that this is simply not a guarantee that every state is going to be able to pass a higher tax rate. Massachusetts, in fact, tried to get to where New York was, but they failed. So I guess the update here is that it didn't happen. But the question becomes, Pat, is there middle ground here for Massachusetts to come close to where, let's just say, Illinois is at 40%?
Yeah, Massachusetts certainly is an interesting, case here, because this came as like a last-minute late addition amendment to their budget. And the Senate very quickly said, no, we're not going to do that. And I think that might have a little something to do with that. It was that late last minute sort of introduction of the amendment. But also it could have to do with that high rate. I mean, we knew about the industry pushback to that 51% heading into New York. I mean, But to your point about FanDuel not leaving Illinois, who's not going to go into New York? You got to have New York City, right? So I think that 51% might be just a little too unpalatable just for pretty much anybody besides New York. So we'll see. I mean, you just look down in Arkansas where it's not a tax, it's a revenue share that you have to do. Outside sports books have to share 51% of their revenue with the local casino. So, and there's no outside operators. It's all local operators down there. So that's a kind of the signal there. And yeah, again, it was the late addition of this amendment. I think we might very well see something in Massachusetts next year early on to kind of work it through the legislative course and maybe, yeah, to your point, have a nice little middle point. And I don't know, I don't even know if it would be 40%, but certainly maybe higher than what they have now. Again, we'll see. I mean, the fact that there's more states, I mean, New Jersey's even talking about a hike as well. The fact that more states are talking about it and the fact that Illinois got this huge increase over the line might have regulators and legislators kind of scratching their heads and going, maybe this is something we can do because one of the main reasons we hear when states are talking about legalizing sports betting is revenue. And so if they can get even more revenue and other states are showing that they can increase that revenue, they're going to be interested. And I guess what's more interesting to me is that they're doing this without any real industry feedback. So we'll see what happens as we go into a new legislative session next year, if more and more collaborations and cooperation will go on both sides.
Yeah, and I would think that all states will try. I mean, there's nothing to lose at this point. It's just a matter of, as you said, if they get over the finish line, that will be the key. All right, Pat, some really good reporting for you guys, and you in particular over at Legal Sports Report, getting on the phone with lawmakers in North Carolina, one of the very popular collegiate athlete states, trying to determine whether or not you'll be able to wager on collegiate props on all of the betting websites come this college football season. Pat, is there any update that you've gotten on this, or does it just seem to be status quo for the most part?
For the most part, it seems like it's going to stay at least this year. There is a bill right now in the legislature that would ban college sports props. Of course, as you point out, that's a huge market in North Carolina probably, and that's all coming from the feedback we've heard from athletes, including Armando Bacot, about harassment from sports betting losers, I would assume. And, so that made some people in North Carolina worry. They introduced this bill. It does not seem like it's going to go anywhere because the main sports betting sponsors from last year do not approve of this bill. They're not supportive. So it's probably not going to get through. And that's what a rep told me yesterday who sponsors the bill. What she did say is there is possibility that we can work on things and turn this bill into something more like West Virginia, where there's some sort of punishment for people who are harassing athletes. And I think that's something, again, as we're moving away from worrying about states legalizing sports betting, it's more about fine-tuning the industry and seeing what's going on. So this is, again, kind of an issue I think you'll see a lot more next year come up in states across the U.S.
Yeah, not easy to police that, I think, either. But again,
No,
if that's the alternative to having it, yeah, I mean, it's you yelled too loud at an athlete. We're going to punish you? I don't know. Doesn't sound reasonable. All right, Pat, we'll read more about that story over at LegalSportsReport.com. Thanks again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks as always, Craig.